in the dark, I play my dreams. Permaculture flows like sweet streams. I'm the daddy with the know-how seed. Creating the world like it's meant to be. Permaculture, P-I-M-P, I'm the king. That's love in everything. Bring a change, making it last. Join the permaculture.
Welcome to episode 345 of the Permaculture Pimpcast, where PIMP stands for Permaculture is my passion. The only Pimpcast on planet Earth where we discuss permaculture, preparedness, and practical living. That's right, y'all. Yeah, we're going to keep it real today, and I'm really excited about this episode, folks. Whole lot of synchronicities going on here. But before we get into it, this episode, as always, brought to you by Hickory Ridge Soap from TwoOldCrowsHomestead.com. Turn that simp into a pimp. Bam! Living Soil Foundation. Look, y'all, we are doing some massive stuff over here in Western North Carolina. We got a 1 acre site over there that we've cleaned up completely using what the good Lord put on this planet. And I'm going to be doing a video. It's probably going to come out Friday. And we're going to talk about how you have to maintenance your compost and one of the coolest ways to go about it. Also using some of the product, that Soil Savior product that we've talked about before, you know, the one that I've been using for about 8 months along with my BioComplete compost that I didn't tell anybody about until I had all the goods on the product. But anyway, if you want it, it's down below. And Redemption Shield. I'm going to handle all the housekeeping up front because I don't want to mess up the flow with the awesome guests that I got coming on today. Look, y'all, you know me. I'm G'd up from the feet up, and I mean grounded. And the guests I have on today, I think they're probably the same. Look, Wave Watch, Billy 100. That'll get you $100 off. And I probably need to wear that thing right now because I kind of busted up my ribs a little bit falling on a weed eater the other day, and I was doing great. And then I went out there to go film this video earlier today, busted up a few more things because I wasn't ready. And so that's where that grounding can also help. So you can lay on the affected part. Like I've been grounding pretty much all day today. Feet on the ground, you know, put the affected area on the ground. And if you need any grounding mats or anything like it, I mean, the real earth is always going to be best. But if you can't do that, 10% off with promo code PERMA at Redemption Shield. Remember, coming up, East Tennessee Homestead Alliance Festival. I'm going to be there September 12th and 13th. That's going to be in Knoxville. I don't know why I keep wanting to say Kentucky, but there's only one Knoxville that I know about, and that's in Tennessee. Anyway, I'm going to be there, and a number of others are going to be there as well. Look forward to seeing all of you there as well. Go check them out. Go get your tickets. Get scared away. Don't wait till the last minute. So, finally, EMP Shield. Look, y'all, I've been a journeyman electrician for almost 30 years now, and look, I know my stuff when it comes to this. I'm a pretty darn good craftsman, and I can tell you that I've installed transient voltage surge suppressors all over the United States of amnesia, and nobody comes even close to EMP Shield, whether it's on your vehicle or whether it's at your house. They will get you squared away. So $50 off with promo code PERMA. Want to give a hat tip to everybody in his house tonight. Linda, hey, Alabama, and everybody else. If you would hit that thumbs up, tell everybody we're live so they can start suppressing us. Because Lord knows they do not want this information getting out there, especially from a bunch of brown people on this episode. So before I get into it, y'all, I want to talk to you real quick about synchronicity because it ties into the guests. My son, my daughter-in-law, and my grandbaby were all out visiting here in Western North Carolina. William, of course, runs our other farm in Texas, and he turned it into a demonstration site. And so we were out and about doing whatever it was we were doing. And then on the way back, of course, the most ballinest ice cream shop in Western North Carolina is Meadowsweet Creamery. And I just happen to, I don't live in the town, but I live about 8-9 miles away from there. But we were coming back and I was like, okay, man, to see my little grandbaby eat some ice cream, you know, they're not going to give her any ice cream, but, you know, I can give her some whipped cream or something like that. Because she doesn't eat sugar, and we eat sugar almost not at all. So I'm like, okay, we'll roll in there. We go in there, get our ice cream, and then lo and behold, you know, I'm sitting there waiting, doing whatever, and then two folks rolled up on me. And it was Alberto and Annette, And I ain't gonna lie, folks. I mean, I don't get starstruck all the time, but honestly, after a couple of minutes of a conversation, I knew that we'd come across some kindred spirits here because they fancy themselves as the same as Michelle and I do, and my son as well, as eternal students. Folks, there is nothing I love more in this world than autodidacts. That's a fancy way of saying self-taught people. And there's a whole lot of you in the chat right now. And there's a whole lot of them out there listening to this podcast. I know because I read your emails. I may not always be able to respond, and certainly not in a timely manner. But well, I got two autodidacts right here. Alberto and Ned, how you doing? Welcome to the Pimpcast.
We're doing great. We're very happy and blessed to be here sharing this space with you.
Well, yeah, thank you for that warm welcome.
No, it's the least I can do because why don't you tell everybody about the synchronicity? Because I truly believe there is such a thing as synchronicity. I mean, tell them what happened and then how we wound up at the same ice cream shop, because that story in and of itself is pretty incredible.
Well, it was truly a synchronicity because we were traveling around different states, and that day we were supposed to be visiting the Berry Center in Kentucky, but since it was closed, we decided to visit our friend in East Tennessee, and we were going to a farmers market in Nashville with her.
Mhm.
And all of a sudden she told us she was very hungry, so she wanted to stop at an ice cream shop, and we were talking about precisely you and Michelle. And as soon as we get inside the shop, we see the two of you. So it was surreal. Like it was meant to be. It was a beautiful synchronicity.
Good night. We were saying the same thing, and all the way home we were talking about it, and then we were talking about you guys for days, even though we didn't. I know you had somewhere to be, and I was like, man, I got to get home too. I got to put these animals up. I got to do all this, but at the same time, it's like when you go to one of those festivals that you just you love all the speakers, you're meeting some awesome people, and you got to go home, but you don't want to, and that's kind of where we were. So we've had some subsequent conversations since, and Alberto and I text from time to time whenever I have time. I mean, I'm usually running at 100 miles an hour. And these days, I leave my phone off and I only check it maybe periodically throughout the day. And even then, I'm getting into the habit of only checking it when I'm grounded. And, I leave that thing in airplane mode basically all day long. So if I don't respond quickly, you know the reasons why. So I'm just trying as best I can to, try to every little thing. Look, y'all, I've talked about it before. I'm not going to get too dark here, but look, they're trying to murder us in so many different ways. And I'm doing everything I can to try to keep a positive attitude and to stay on the right path and to eliminate the toxins from my life, whether it's people or whether it's devices that I don't need to be around all day long. That's exactly why, folks, I'm grounded every single time I'm in this studio, whether it's the blue light coming out of these lights or, whether it's coming off the screen, whatever the case may be, or the EMF, I'm grounded. So I'm constantly getting no positive electrons. So enough about me. Let's, cause you guys, I know your backgrounds, but man, I could do it, but I think it would be better coming from you two because, well, first of all, you're not in the CONUS United States. You guys are over in Puerto Rico right now. And, you just happen to be here and we just happen to cross paths and a brilliant synchronicity. But why don't you tell everybody about your backgrounds? Because I think that's going to kind of play a role in how this thing unfolds.
Okay, well, we'll see about that because the backgrounds are mixed, and where we are now is a long journey that maybe, well, it is related to everything because as we are aware of that everything has a purpose. So every decision that we make when we decided what to study or whatever, everything has a reason. So we have evolved from, and being away from our official professional backgrounds in that sense. So I just want to highlight that in my case, and Alberto has a different story to tell about his background. But in my case, I just wanted to study communications. I did journalism. I did anthropology. I have worked in many different nonprofits in Puerto Rico, which is our home country. As you mentioned, we are born and raised in Puerto Puerto Rico, this Caribbean beautiful island where we live, with all the good stuff and all the other stuff that is not that good, but it's part of life. And so we live here. I studied here in Puerto Rico. I have evolved in my journey professionally, in terms of what I do for a living. I used to work, for the first 10 years of my career, like working for others as an employee. And then thankfully, many synchronicities and things happen in my life. Not all of them, sweet, many of them very sour and difficult to go through, but they were part of this university of life that we call life as a school. That's what we always tell. We are as students, eternal students. So moving forward, the past 10 years, which are, the last 10 years of my a professional career, a lot of different things and doors opening when I made the decision of just quitting my full-time job, which I had for like 7 years. And so the past 10 years I have been working on my own and having different projects that I'm passionate about, and it's been truly a blessing. And we can later talk about those projects, including one that connects us through podcasting and everything. So I would summarize that my professional career, I have loved every bit of it. I have loved it, but it has also taken me for a journey of difficult challenges. But at the same time, I'm so glad and so happy where we're now, with mixing different interests that are in common with you as well. You can tell a little more.
We definitely have a lot in common, no doubt about that, and we'll definitely get into it. Alberto, let's hear your background. Let's hear, every superhero has an origin story. Let's hear it, brother.
No pressure. I have never been comfortable in any institutions from school. So when I graduated from high school, I didn't know what to do. So I spent 8 years going around college, not knowing what to finally study. And I graduated from human resources, and I started working without my intentions. Like, I didn't want it to be there in a pharmaceutical, because already I knew what they were doing. And I spent only 3 months working behind a computer in the human resources department. And I had to quit because I didn't want it to be part of that. But also, I am like you, Billy. I need to see the sky every single day. And I was missing so much being there. So as soon as I quit, I just started working on my own, doing garden maintenance, and I have been doing that for the last 20 years.
Man, that's what I'm talking about. These two are being very modest, because we have 2 college grads that that were probably always autodidacts, and decided, hey, you know what? I don't like the way that things are rolling in this world. I'm just going to go my own direction. So, before we go any further, I want to point out these two are also podcasters, and pretty notable ones at that. Why don't you tell everybody about your podcast and where they can go to check it out?
The podcast name is in Spanish because it's in Spanish. The podcast is Tradiciones Sabias, which means in English, wise traditions. And it's a podcast that we do for the Weston A. Price Foundation. If you don't know the Weston A. Price Foundation, we highly encourage you to look up the westonaprice.org page, that you can find all the information about what their mission is, their vision, and a lot of the information they share, because they are highly focused in education, in research and activism, in many of the topics that you have shared through your podcast. It is focused on educating people, empowering people, and the focus is all in food, agriculture, and the healing arts. So under that umbrella of those 3 topics, we interview different people, from people that are specialized in different topics in medicine, doctors, agriculture, and people that don't have any degree at all, which is something that we also want to encourage. You don't have to have any degree, but you are knowledgeable in many different ways, and we want to rescue especially the ancient and like traditional wisdom. It's very important to share that. So it's Tradiciones Sabias in Spanish, and you can find it in Spotify, in Apple Podcasts, in Evox, and in the webpage westonaprice.org.
Man, I might have to use that to learn the language, just to start listening to that. We'll definitely link that in the show notes for all those that are interested out there. Now, there's so many different folks. I mean, we're just not going to have enough time to cover all of it. But when we first did a live stream with these guys, not live stream, but basically a conversation, and I saw the books in the background, I knew ding, 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 because if you come in my house, you're going to see the very same thing. Like they say, never trust a person whose TV is bigger than their library. and right off the bat, and here's another thing, y'all. When I was last night trying to figure out, I had a mind, my mind just, I don't know, I couldn't think of it. Victor Schauberger was the name I was looking for. And when I got off the podcast, I didn't see it until this morning because my phone was off. I was trying to figure out, hey, this guy that talked about using copper tools and all these incredible advances that he did in water and everything else. Well, who do you think texted me and said, hey, I think the name you're looking for was Victor Schauberger? He was absolutely right. Well, he's on this podcast. So I'm like, okay, man, we got some serious learners over here. I got to know because there's so many people that are in the same position where I was and where you were, that are doing a 9-to-5 job. They go there, they do just enough to keep from getting fired, and they pay them just enough from quitting to keep them from quitting. How did y'all make that transition? How did you make that transition from this everyday job to doing something like you, Alberto? I got to see the sun every single day. I got to see it. And if I don't, other things just seem to fall apart in my life. First of all, how did you make that transition? I know, you kind of glossed over it a little bit, but could each one of you talk about how you went from being in the classic mode of going to a 9-to-5 job to doing what you currently do right now? Was it an overnight decision? Did it take time? Did you have to make the transition? What did that look like?
Well, in my case, as soon as I started working on that job, I knew right away I didn't want it to be there. But also at that time, I was under a lot of social pressure because here and everywhere else, success is measured by where you work at, and if it is a big company, you are successful. So I fell for that for a couple of months, and I could not handle that. Like I have never been able to be in a uncomfortable situation for a long time if it doesn't make sense to me. So for me, it was a very quick decision. Like I didn't look back. I just quit and started right away learning on my own, because I have never ever done any lawn maintenance for anybody but my parents. So I started learning on my own. Like the first job I took, it was $40 for 2 days. So it was pretty bad. But yeah, it was an easy decision for me because I was very, very uncomfortable with myself. And as soon as I quit, I decided from now on, I'm going to have a very simple life. I will only value the important things in life. And I don't care about having money or a beautiful car as long as my soul is on peace.
Wow, that's awesome, man. I like the way that sounds. How about you, Annette? Was the transition as easy for you?
Not at all. We are very alike in many things. And these 20 years that we have been, almost 20 years we have been together, we have learned a lot about each other. And one thing is that we are very different in many things, but we are alike in the most essential things. But his journey, like doing that making that decision in 3 months, that didn't happen for me. It took me years and years of unlearning at the core, many subconscious like beliefs and many things that I thought that was I felt happy, and I would say I was happy at many different jobs that I had, and especially the last one, for the 7 years I was there. But it took a toll in my health and a very, very deep imbalance that I had. And that was my reality check. That some people talk about the dark night of their souls or something
Dark
like
Night
that.
of the Soul. Yep.
Yeah, I'm translating the Spanish thought. So I had that, and it took me several years to be able to make that decision, which was the hardest decision I have ever made, because as you mentioned before, we had a paycheck every month. My bosses, I had a good salary, like a very good salary. I enjoy what I was doing. They paid cell phones, they paid many things. I felt comfortable, but there was something that was missing. And as soon as I started feeling off in my health, and I had to take care of that health issues, that's when I also realized eventually I would eventually make the decision of quit the job, regardless of the health issues that I had to go through. And that's why I always also say all those health imbalances are for me a blessing. And every single day I say thank you to the universe, to God, for providing me the opportunity of going through those are like, for me, like another layer of like birth canals, like you could say that the symbolism of going through a birth canal. So for me, it took me many years, and but it has been a huge blessing. Very hard decision, and the first 2 years even harder, because when I decided to quit, the first year after that, I didn't earn a penny in an entire year. It was very, very difficult in terms of, financially. But as Alberto also mentioned, we have been choosing to deciding to make a living of the very basic and essential things in life, which are not material. Well, besides books, which is an investment, and we can talk later about why we invest in so many books. But yeah, we live a very humble lifestyle now.
No, I'm all with that. And I can definitely relate to that dark night of the soul. We're born into this matrix, this bottom of Plato's cave, if you will, thinking that, like everybody else, I was that person, like you described, Alberto. I was chasing that brass ring and I was getting it, making a good living, doing all this, but was not happy at all. And I wish I had the sense that you have, because I wouldn't have spent decades doing what I was doing. Instead, I would have jumped into what I currently do, but I did it gradually. So, eventually, no journey's too great when you find what you're looking for. So, yeah, I can definitely relate to that. And I want to get into your health concern, or the health crises that both of you went through. I want to get to that eventually. But, before we do, when these two I've interviewed a whole lot of people, whether it was in terrestrial radio or whether it was on podcasts. I've talked to a lot of people, and these are the only two that ever sent like resumes. And I was like, okay, this is fantastic, man. This is really, I'm like, okay, they just raised the bar for everybody out here, because now it really, it helps frame up in a massive way some of the really helpful things that I know folks could use out there. Because like all of us, we all have different experiences, but it's still life just the same. But it was really, really helpful, because now I know a lot more about you. And one thing that I found fascinating, absolutely fascinating, because I want to know if this played a role in your decisions to go on the path that you did, and that's your love of learning. I've done, I don't even know how many programs, especially early on, about how to raise autodidacts, like my wife and I did with our son, or what we became, because having gone up in the classical school system, it's like, follow these rules, do it this way, do it that way. And I did for the longest time. But at the same time, I knew, this isn't my path, but I'm going down it, knowing full well this is not where I should be going at all. So I want to know, there was a guy that once wrote, and it made a lot of sense to me, that a book is less important for what it says than for what it makes you think. And in your case, I want to know, did your love of learning, whether it's through books, whether it's in podcasting, whether it's whatever you listen to, what came first, the apple or the cart? Did you get the education first, or were you always a lifelong learner?
Well, in my case, I have been always very curious. Like in school, I would be in trouble every time, because I would keep asking questions if what the teacher told me didn't make any sense, especially in religious topics. So I would end in the office. So I think I was born very curious. And when I went to college, like that institution didn't offered me what I didn't know I needed. That's why I spent 8 years. That is almost unheard of here in Puerto Rico. And as soon as I graduated, like a spark inside me, like turned on, and I started devouring books. Like I wanted to learn about everything. So I think I started doing that probably in 2000, just before 9/11, and I started devouring books. And when that happened, the 9/11 event happened, and I started digging deep. It was it was there for me where everything started. Like I have never stopped. Like I was so aggressively looking for information, and it's been a lifestyle from that moment on.
And I can add something to what you just said. It's not just seeking information, but it is that you were always like looking for the truth, and there was something inside yourself that you said whatever the authorities, the government, the teachers, or whoever is the authoritative figure is saying is not the truth.
My
So there was
man, that's what I'm talking about.
Yes, I was not like that at all. I am the opposite, and I believe it's tied to my health journey and my story, which is long, but I can summarize it the way I was born, how my gut microbiome was messed up since the way I was born, and premature birth, and many other details that I may go into them later. But the fact is that I was always the good girl. I wanted to, for my parents, I wanted to be the good girl. I would never do something against their will. The same with the teachers, the same with the authorities, the same with everyone. I straight A's, but I was always like I also wanted to learn. So I was always an avid learner, but I would just read the text and want the straight A's and all that, like by the book. But every now and then something would be like, maybe there's another side of this story. So that's when I started wanting to study journalism for my bachelor's. I was very interested in the National Geographic magazines and like learning from other cultures. And so I started having like cultural shocks by reading to stories of other people abroad. And so maybe it was that part that was always there in myself of trying to learn about other people and other cultures and how they do it differently, that always picked my brain on trying to look for other stories and other sides of the stories. And when I studied journalism, it was very eye-opening to learn that none of my classes had any critical thinking like skills, and my thesis at my master's degree proved my point that journalisms are not trained to make you think critically. They are just following mass media standards and the propaganda machine and many other topics that we can dig deeper later. But out of that curiosity, yes, I started then learning by myself of the different narratives, the ones that were against the official ones. And that's another story of like learning how to develop your own critical learning skills and thinking outside the box. And then I had many other moments of like, oh wow, so everything I have been told is like a lie on many different topics. So it was harder for me than from him, I would say. A decade ago maybe, but his journey was 20 years ago, so he has 10 years in advance.
So, folks, you now see why we were so simpatico, those two and me and Michelle, right off the bat. Because fundamentally, now, I'm going to ask you both a dumb question that I clearly know the answer to, but I just think that there's somebody out there that's probably going to benefit from hearing maybe you say it instead of hearing it from me. I've always said there was 4 quadrants of education, but I think there's actually 5. I've always said there's a military education, trade education, college education, and a farm education. But really, there's number 5, and I can't believe I've never put in there. And I would say that's self-education. Of all those different quadrants, I know that you guys have amassed, like we have, a number of them in there. For me, hands down, the education that I acquired myself through reading, through learning, through classes, through travel, through all those things dwarfs all the others combined. Where are y'all on that one?
I feel that every single day I learned more than what I learned in 8 years in college and 6 years in middle and high school.
Right there with you. Would you feel like you have that same journey in that?
Oh, sure. Whatever I have learned, like you mentioned, traveling, meeting new people, experiences, books, podcast, any lecture that I find in internet, any paper that I dig deeper when I see a news article and then I find the original source of that and I dig deeper. It's like those rabbit holes that I have been through in the past 10 years have been amazing, and there's no comparison at all to the other like official like learnings pathways.
Well, I think we're definitely on the same track there in terms of anything that's officially proclaimed through the government or the news media or whatever else. I fundamentally think it's a lie until proven otherwise. I'm always going to think that just based on what I've seen so far, based on my education, based on my understanding. And when I say education, folks, I'm talking about it in the form that Mark Twain talked about it. You know, there's indoctrination and then there's education. And once you figure out what that is, there's no going back, at least not for me. And I guess certainly not for you as well. I want to shift gears a little bit. I wanted people to at least know a little bit about your background, but I also want to get into your health journey because, as I understand it, both of you have dealt with health crises of your own. And there's a number of people out there. I get the letters all the time of people that are going through this, going through that. And that's why, as of late, on this show, because so many people have buyer's remorse, whether it was from the jab or whether it's a lifestyle, or maybe they didn't know about grounding maybe until I started talking about it, or maybe they didn't know the benefit of staying away from blue light after the sun sets, or they didn't know about some of these other things. And I'm like, okay, when we got people dropping like flies right now for a whole variety of ailments that I can't even discuss on here, otherwise they'll cut the feed. And I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. But anyway, for a whole variety of ailments, people are falling, in a bad way. Or people are just, I mean, I'll be honest with you, in the homesteading and the farming industry, we're some of the most unhealthy people, a lot of them out there. And I'm trying to change up that paradigm and do it in a big way. But you two have both dealt with some serious health battles that you overcame. And I think it would be a great benefit to everybody out there if you could maybe, if you're okay with it, maybe tell us about it. We'll start with you, Annette.
Definitely. And I'm glad you mentioned change of paradigm, that you're trying to help these people that go through their health crisis to change the paradigm. And the first thing I would say that we agree and we share about our own health journeys is that you have to change the paradigm about what health and sickness is. That's the first entry point. And whatever diagnosis, whatever label they put on you, whatever condition you may find that you have, and we're talking about even big conditions, names that scare the hell out of you, like cancer or diabetes or whatever. It's a heart condition, whatever it is, it's the body telling you something. It's a language. Any sign, any symptom that you have, no matter the label they put on it, it shouldn't become your identity. And you have to dig deeper and understand the root cause. That would be one of the main lessons, I would say. That's what happened to me. I was labeled with depression because that was the symptoms, the signs, what happened physically, mentally. You could tell, oh, definitely. So I was labeled with that 4 times, different occasions. I had different episodes, what they are called episodes. Every year for 4 years, I would have a more severe one. And it impaired me, like literally, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. I was like to a point that I was, I hit rock bottom, like you say in English, that saying, rock bottom, like from there's nothing else, just to look up and say whatever God's plan are for you, but the most important part of what we have learned about my health journey is what Alberto as a companion did, because since I had all these signs and symptoms while I was in the episodes, I couldn't even think, I couldn't even bathe, I couldn't, it was that bad, like very, very severe, serious. But he was trying to find all the tools, whether it was a doctor, whether it was a therapy or whatever. And obviously, because of his curiosity and what he already felt, he tried to avoid like the official courses, like you have an ailment and there's a drug for it, drug or surgery, which is the pharma complex, and that's what they want to push for everyone. But he, every time, I had that, so it was 4 different episodes. He tried to find the root cause. Why is she doing this? Why is happening to her? Why is her body reacting this way? And long story short, because it's many years that took us from being labeled with that and having all those symptoms to being in total complete holistic health, which is another important thing that I want to mention. Holistic health is another thing when you realize we are holistic beings and everything is interconnected, and your mind, your body, your soul, your physical, everything is tied together. So there's no separation about mental health or physical health. So I'm going here all the way to just mention that it takes time to find the root cause. It took many appointments, many different doctors, many different therapies, treatments, labs, to finally understand and put all the pieces of the puzzle together. And once I understood what was, and understand that everything started from the day I was born and the way I was born, up moving forward to many health decisions or lifestyle choices, then it's like there, like you mentioned earlier, also there's no point back. So when you realize, oh wow, so there's no one single root cause. It's a combination of factors, which is another thing. You want to know and say, oh, it was the EMF, oh, it was this water that I drink every day. No, there are many different, like you say, many points of attack on our bodies and our souls. So you just have to find what is in your being in balance, and then understand how to take control of that. And in my case, during that journey, not only of going to different doctors' appointments and therapies, we realized that it was the way I was born, that I was born in an emergency C-section. It was a premature child. I wasn't breastfed. And I was 1 month in NICU, which is the intensive care unit, away from my parents. Now we know that attachment is very important in the first months of lives, and that you create non-healthy attachment styles. That's why I want us to always be the perfect little, girl that obeys to everyone. And so, and this is physical in an aspect, because the microbiome gets messed up if you are not breastfed, and if you receive vaccines and antibiotics, which I received. And 30 years later, I started with other symptoms. I had a perfect, like, healthy childhood, although I had asthma attacks here and there, or allergies or skin problems, but they were quote unquote random things. And then fast forward 30 years later, taking some contraceptive pills that were recommended by a doctor to control something else. Then I took them by face value, because this was my doctor, so I'll take them. But then also something inside my cells telling me I shouldn't be drinking these pills. And one day I just took the decision to quit them. And exactly a year after I took that decision, the first symptom of the depression started. So that was inside my body. Nobody could tell all these imbalances. You cannot tell until the first symptom appears. And even though it was labeled as depression, we finally understood I was deficient in some minerals, like we all are in different ways. But I had excess of copper. I was highly deficient in zinc. We corrected that, and everything started to change. And also changing the other, like, toxic things. Like you mentioned, toxicity can come from toxic relationship, from toxic food, toxic air, toxic water, toxic behaviors, toxic many different things. So that helped me look at myself and decide, now that since I was like rock bottom, I was able to then, okay, now moving on the next 20, 30, 40 years of my life, how I want to live. And I don't want to live with an imbalance. I don't want to, like you mentioned, I want to do my best to have a healthy lifestyle, because there are many other people that don't want that, but I do want that for myself, and that's it's a very long story and has so many details, but that gives you, a glimpse of the main lessons of that. And the most important part of it is that everything is interconnected. No label, no matter what the condition is, you have to find the root cause. You have to make a self evaluation of your habits and make those changes, because otherwise you are going to end up in the revolving door, and it's not going to take you anywhere. I don't know if you want to add to that part of my journey and to what happened to you with your heart.
Well, I mean, let me ask you a question regarding all that. So you found out that you had some, excuse me, some imbalances, and it wasn't the doctors necessarily that figured out. It was your husband, who's an autodidact, who found probably the right doctors to help you do the right tests, I guess, to figure out what it is. So, I mean, had you been on that same roller coaster, you might not be here right now had you been doing what you were doing. I mean, was it that bad?
Was that bad? I would say definitely. If it wasn't for Alberto digging outside the box and not conforming to putting me on any kind of pill or label, maybe, yeah, you never know, because we always believe that, this is life is a school. We are co-creators, and there's a plan for everything, and everything has a purpose. So I wouldn't say, whatever, you cannot tell the future, I would say, in a sense, but definitely maybe the course would be different. Maybe I would be not feeling as I am feeling, or the way I have been feeling the past 7 years or so, that I have been totally healed from that. So definitely it was his inquiry, and obviously then when I was able to understand what happened and all the put together, like I mentioned before, the pieces together, then owning it. In my case, like, okay, so now it's my responsibility. Being healthy and happy is my choice, is my responsibility, and I have to take those actions every single day. Every single day I wake up and I say, everything I do, everything I think, everything I say has to be aligned to be in a healthy, lifestyle and mindset. So, but definitely the curiosity of not conforming to whatever traditional, I would say traditional or mainstream medicine or doctors will push for any condition. In my case, the depression, but it can happen. And we have done that research ourselves with other relatives, and they are not willing to do the changes. I'll just say it honestly, but with cancer, with diabetes, with high blood pressure, we always dig to the alternative ways. There's always a choice. There has been many banned medicine alternative, to offer people, but it is just not making money. So
I'm right there with you. So the answer, bottom line, folks, and I know there's a whole lot of people out there listening right now. The answer was not in the medical model, folks, and that's exactly the journey that Michelle and I have found in exactly with our own concerns, is that the mainstream medical model has failed me 100% of the time. They can't even, I mean, these are the same people that can't tell you how to get rid of heartburn, for crying out loud. But you want to go on here and cut something out of me? I don't think so. Alberto, you also had a health scare of sorts, and that needed to be sorted out. Do you mind telling us about that and how you got over it?
Of course. I didn't know I was born with a heart condition. And it was until one of her episodes, since I was the caregiver. I think it was the big stress I was going through that exacerbated that condition. I discovered that my condition was called a supraventricular tachycardia, which is like a,
Oh, your heart's running like 100 miles an hour.
yeah, like sometimes it can last a minute, but in my case, it didn't stop. So my heartbeat was 220 beats per minute for more than an hour.
Oh,
In this moment. So they took me to the hospital, and I almost died. Like we say goodbye to each other in this moment. And thankfully there is a very safe uh, procedure to correct that. Yeah, because that is not done by a cardiologist, it's done by an electrophysiologist, because it has to do with the electrical aspect to the heart. So thankfully for me, it wasn't an open heart surgery. So they went through my I want to say groin, like the vein that goes to the heart.
Femoral artery. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And they just burn the damaged tissue, and that's
Mhm.
it. But still, the experience made us even closer. We have been very close since day one. We love each other, and we enjoy every minute we are together. But that moment when I didn't know if it was my time, and God gave me another chance, like I get to appreciate every day even more. Like every morning, the first thing I do, I look by my side and see her. Like it cannot be a bad day. So yeah, that was in very short way my story.
Bro, that's man, you're gonna have people crying over here, man. They're gonna think this is a Hallmark Hall of Fame episode, bro, because no, that's some good stuff right there, boy. I mean, that's a player move if ever there was one. Yeah. I mean, hey Michelle, you hear that? Yeah, maybe I'll look over at you in the morning and I think, oh yeah, yeah. I mean, well, no, I mean, really, it's those crisis moments. Honestly, it's no different than when you're a soldier and you go somewhere, you're sleeping on the ground every single night. Now you hate it when you're back in the barracks. You hate sleeping in a cot that has these springs that are digging in your back, but it's better than sleeping on rocks every night. And then you don't appreciate that bed until you have something that's way, way worse, or I can definitely relate because I've had that dark night of the soul myself. I haven't really talked about it here on this program, but something that was similar to me that made me realize, that if I don't straighten up and fly right, man, this is not going to be a good journey. I'm going to lose the things that are most important to me. So, it wasn't something because I've known other people that have gone through similar crises, not exactly the same. And then they just kind of get into the regular groove of their lives. They have no intention of ever fixing it. But the radiation that comes off of you two is infectious. I mean that. It is, you can't be in your presence without feeling the energy coming off of you and feeling the high positivity and just love that just resonates from you guys, whether it's electronically or otherwise. And I think people in the chat are saying as much as well. Certainly you're given a lot to think about. How many people, because you do work, you do the Spanish version of the Weston A. Price thing. One of my biggest frustrations as it currently is that there are people I know in my life that are dealing with absolutely horrendous health issues that could be solved. And they have zero intention of actually putting in the work, and it requires so little in so many different cases. How much are you running into that? Because I think you kind of touched on it a little bit. Do you have those situations where you're like, hey, if we just do a little bit of lifestyle changes here, maybe get up in the morning, go see the sunrise, it'll get your, the supracosmatic nucleus and everything else going, your anterior pituitary gland, all these things start and they won't do anything. I mean, how much of that are you running into?
First of all, I want to say that we don't feel we are better than anybody because we have learned certain things, but still we have learned enough to know when people we love can do better. And in fact, yeah, we have people that we love with all our heart, very close to us, that are suffering health issues and could be doing a lot better. And some of them have even tried things we have suggested and they have done better, but then they return to the original treatment and they are not doing that good. So sometimes, yeah, it is very frustrating, but we also understand that when we are born, each of us will go through our own learning journey, and we need to also uh, value that.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Respect or value.
yeah, we need to respect and validate that. But still, it's very frustrating because we know we could see those people we love doing a lot better than they are doing right now.
And I want to add that at the point that we're now, today, talking, we have gone through a journey ourselves with health, but also with what you just asked us about. You know, how to approach people that we love, which is the hardest because people that you don't know, then you don't know. But the ones that you love and you know they could do better is the hardest. But we have come to a point after Alberto mentioned, you know, everyone is in their own path, and we will provide as many tools and information as we can to help you. But you have to help yourself. And if you are not willing to do it, we will keep you in our prayers, in our thoughts and daily affirmations. But that's it, because my own health, well, I won't put my own health at risk, not even for Alberto, for my parents, or for anyone, because I already know what that looks like, and I don't want to get to that point. So it's hard, it's very hard to make that decision for yourself. Like, I am willing to help you, but you have to help yourself as well. And one other thing, and then if you want to add something, is that we also understand that many people are conditioned, you know, to a point that is just
Right.
so hard. Cognitive dissonance, you know, that happens. I mean, and Alberto has this bullet points in his head, and we share about this, how everything is tied together. When you have this poor soil, you have a poor microbiome, then you have a simplified thought, and then everything, you are being controlled and you are not even aware of that. So we sometimes
Good point.
step back and we say, you know what, like with what happened with the COVID and all that, I don't know, we cannot mention many things like you mentioned earlier, you know, but up front, you know, you could see people, and we are not like in a position to say, like Alberto said, we're not any better than you, we're just in a different point in our journey, and we make these choices. We have found truth. Truth sets you free, but then as well is your responsibility, and then whatever you decide, but you are not seeing it. So if you are seeing it, maybe I can help you. But if you're not even seeing the problem or seeing and make, you know, being willing to make the changes, then it's your journey, and you will have the consequences yourself.
You wanted to add something, Alberto?
Everything she said is perfect.
Okay, I'm gonna twist the subject one more time because I know we're coming to a close here, but I got to ask you, because obviously people are going to beat me over the head if I don't ask, and plus, I think it would be a good thing for people to know, especially with what's going on in the world right now with so much chaos and everything else. Obviously, you two lived through Hurricane Maria. It devastated that island. In fact, it's one of those things where in my life I know exactly where I was when it happened. I was working in Massachusetts at the time, and I was offered a whole lot of money to come over there and work for a FEMA contractor, to work in Puerto Rico putting up portable generators. I'd already been gone for 7 months at that time. I turned it down. It didn't work out. And, you know, I mean, clearly that was, you're living with a level of devastation there that we didn't necessarily have in Western North Carolina with a hurricane that hit us, because there are other places to go. You're on an island. So, you know, what are you going to do? I mean, can you talk to us about what that experience was like, and, you know, some of the lessons you might have taken away from that?
Sure. If you ask anybody in Puerto Rico about Hurricane Maria, I think almost everybody will say that their lives are before the hurricane and then after the hurricane. Like, it changed all of us in a way or another. Thankfully, in our case, we have been preparing for disasters since 2010, the year we were married. So in that sense, it wasn't that difficult for us because we were prepared. It was a very uncomfortable situation for us, but for many people around the island, it was life changing. Many people lost their homes. Many people died. The official number that the government gave was a couple hundred people, but in fact there were 3,000 deaths
Wow.
related, and then indirectly because we were without electricity in many areas for over a year. So many people that were in dialysis and ventilators, they were gone. So it was a very um, big disaster, a life changing event, um, but also brought a lot of opportunities for growing. At least that's how we see it. But sadly, as soon as things returned back to normal, many people forgot about that, and almost nobody here is prepared for that if it happened again.
That's the part I just for the life of me can't understand, because when it went on in Western North Carolina, it was there was a farm store down the road, there was power out, there was the whole 9 yards. And it's funny, I hear you say that, Alberto, that they claimed there was just a couple of hundred died when actually it was about 3,000. They did the same thing here. We don't even know how many people died here in Western North Carolina. Some of the estimates from people I trust is thousands and thousands and thousands. I don't think anybody really knows. And of course, the mainstream media is never going to tell you what the truth is on that matter. It's just curious that you're telling me the very same thing happened there that happened here. But I mean, on the same doggone token, we had people that were like, oh my goodness, I'm never going to find myself in this position again. There was a girl that worked at the farm store down the road. And as soon as the power went on, they went right back into the matrix. And I'm like, okay, you try to have this conversation and say, okay, so what if it happens again? Or I've tried to use this channel, this YouTube channel, this podcast, talking about without being, without engaging in the gratuitous vulgarity that a lot of other YouTubers were doing at that time. We were trying to say, look, here are the lessons we learned. Here's what we would do differently. Here's what we're doing differently. Here's what we did great on, and here's where we fell short. And it's like, as soon as the power went on, the amnesia set in. And so you're telling me the very same thing happened over there?
That is right. I don't know if that is part of human nature, or if we are so used to be so comfortable. But as soon as it ended, people started living like you should not be prepared for another one. Like the eye line is still in the same place, and we are in the path of all the hurricanes. So I don't think that will change anytime soon. But also, I want to tell you, Billy, regarding the Hurricane Helen in North Carolina, on behalf of probably every people listening to this episode, I want to thank you for all the amazing work you, William, and Michelle did through your channel, because it was the only place I could learn what was really happening there. I was really concerned about what was happening there because I could see so many parallels to what we have. And here the news said nothing. So you were the only source. And I want to really thank you for what you did, because it really meant a lot for us.
Well, thank you so much, because, it's funny. One of my best friends that lives in Massachusetts, it was a month later before he even heard about it. Nobody knew that there were people buried under the mud. My son was working for the recovery units out here, and some of the most awful, dreadful stories, the bodies being found and them not telling any truth about any of it. So folks, I mean, look, the moral to the story is here, I really wanted them to talk about this, because I think it is a matter of human nature. I didn't realize that we would have so many parallels. I didn't realize that they were lying about the death tolls out there. I didn't realize that people went right back into the matrix as soon as the event, what they perceived as the event just went over. It must be human nature, because good night, whether it's North Carolina or Puerto Rico, it seems like all of us just fall right into this matrix. And I think to a high extent, we've all become seriously victims of comfort. I think it is. I think that's exactly what it is. We're victims of comfort. And Yeah. So I mean, that's what we try to do is use this platform, and we wanted to be very careful about it. Like it's not like, hey, like a Geraldo Rivera thing where I'm out here rescuing a baby from a river, a raging river, or something like that. We didn't want to do that. I just wanted to tell you the truth. And honestly, I've been reluctant to do any subsequent videos, which I will do here before long, to show that there are still debris piles that are 12 feet tall all over this place. Now I do want to ask you, so what is the nature? Helene happened in what, 2017, I think?
Maria.
I mean,
Maria?
not Helene, but Maria?
Mhm.
Yes, 2017.
What are the state of things over there right now? I mean, did they put in different infrastructure that now all of a sudden favors a 5G environment, or what are we looking at over there?
Well, the energy grid, they have been working on that like eternally ever since 2017. And yeah, we have seen many towers going up after that. So it makes you wonder. I don't know if we have any time. Maybe we can talk about that later. But it makes you wonder who is benefiting from that disaster.
Oh, that's exactly what I'm wondering about. It was like with COVID. I don't know if it was like that way in Puerto Rico, but over here, everybody was supposed. I wasn't locked down. I wasn't obeying, but there were a lot of people that were. And now mysteriously Wi-Fi towers, 5G goes up everywhere. But meanwhile, everybody's locked down. Did the same thing happen over there?
Yep.
Completely. There's many parallels, not only with the hurricane, of course, and the COVID situation, definitely. I want to add also and emphasize that when certain events happen, especially the past, I would say 20 to 30 years, we have to question them, whether they are natural, whether they're man-made, and who is behind all of that, who wants to profit from all of this. And in the case of Puerto Rico with the Hurricane Maria, and I dig the rabbit hole with that, which is another whole different story and episode for further thought, is that there's disaster capitalism. So many players you will benefit from that, and you were talking about like how are things now, and you can still see places that have the effect of the devastation that happened. For example, a basketball court that has never been repaired, but then you have repairs in other areas that show off whatever improvement the government wants to prove that they have done. And with the electrical grid, that's a whole other story. Like Alberto was mentioning, whatever happened, it was like the island was totally destroyed. So then many companies, investors, and many different interests are the ones are rebuilding, quote unquote, and are putting whatever infrastructure they want in place. So that's for another story, but there are different points to follow up on what has happened after Maria and why Maria happened in the first place. So we're definitely a before and after in many different ways, but in our case, it just emphasizes that we need to be prepared. Like you open this podcast with what is your main goal with the podcast, preparedness, practical living. So for us, that was the key lesson of what happened in Maria and what happened with COVID and with all these global threats and global things that are happening. Yes, we have to be aware. Yes, you have to go through the rabbit hole of understanding that what every mainstream authority, media, news, whatever is saying is not necessarily the whole picture. There's always other ways to see things. But then you are aware of that, and then make the constant choice of making your life like your little bubble, like a healthy environment, because there can also be toxicity in the preparedness area and the practical living like mottos. I want to be, because there are so many threats and we will always be in stress and the cortisol levels will be up, and that's not good for your health overall. So yes, you have to be aware. Yes, you have to be critical thinkers, but then you have to make daily choices, like Alberto mentioned, gratitude every morning. Hey, I am awake, so that I have to be thankful. Oh yes, the world is in crisis, but my soul, is it in crisis or not? So that's in the end what I am always focused about.
I like the way y'all roll. Hey, folks, did I tell you or did I tell you? This is why I called the show "Why Eternal Students Might Be the Smartest People You Never Heard of," and they didn't disappoint. So, is there a place where folks can find you if they have questions or want to check out your? Once again, tell everybody where they can find your podcast. Do you have a social media presence, or how would anybody contact you if you wanted them to?
I think the best way would be to put it in somewhere the email address that we have, because it's in Spanish. It's the same name as the podcast, tradicionessabias@gmail.com. They could send us an email there. And there's an Instagram account for the foundation, but for us, it'll be just the Gmail account. And then the podcast is Tradiciones Sabias in Spanish. And we also encourage you to find out about the Weston A. Price Foundation, obviously, because we love the work, and the podcast is for the foundation. You wanted to add something?
Oh yeah, also the foundation has an English version, which is really, really good. So if you don't speak Spanish, but in fact you speak English, it's a beautiful podcast, covers a lot of topics. And if somebody of you listening speaks Spanish or knows somebody that speaks Spanish, it would be great if you recommend that, because we cover so many topics, and we try to do whatever we can to spread knowledge, and so it doesn't happen what the Bible says. I think it says our people perish for lack of knowledge, right? So we try to combat that.
Yeah, we're definitely in that place where we have a whole lot of lack of knowledge and people that are proud to be so. So it's such an incredible joy to be able to come across you two, and fellow travelers on this road, autodidacts, people that love learning for the sake of learning, and people that love to dispense that knowledge. So with that said, I got one final question for each of you, if you wouldn't mind answering. What are some really awesome takeaways that people should walk away from this podcast with, where they could move the needle the most positive way in their own lives? What would each one of you recommend?
Me? Okay. Well, there are so many things, but if you haven't done anything yet, first, we need to be in eternal gratitude for everything. Every situation is a potential gain, no matter what. And I would add, if you want to start a change, you could start with what you eat. So if you go to the supermarket, avoid the central aisles, just go to the peripherals. Vegetables, meat, cheese, dairy, that's it. That would be a good first step. And then try to learn what the things they put on the labels means. Like the first book we bought for that is called Food Additives. I think is the other way around. But we started going to the supermarket, and everything we read in the label, we were looking here to see what it means. So it will be a good first step. Eternal gratitude, and watch out what you put on your body.
And in that same route, besides what you eat, it also is what you put in your skin, what you use in your household. So you can start changing little by little. One key thing is, don't try to do everything at the same time in the first week, even in the first day. Start by little choices, one change per week or per month, whatever is attainable and realistic goal, because you don't want to get overwhelmed as well trying to change. So little by little steps. One step besides that, the toxic things that you put. I don't use any more products, any like skincare products, anything like that. Just natural, whatever, coconut oil or pig.
Lard.
Lard. At this time, my English is getting twisted with the Spanish thoughts. So anyway, there's a lot of things that you can do. Just start small. And one big thing that for what I went through is your mind, your emotions, your spirituality, not religion, your spirituality. So spiritual mindset and your emotions and your core beliefs, challenge them every day just to make them healthier, little by little. But you have to see yourself as a physical, as a mental, emotional, energetic, and whole holistic being. So little by little, but take steps towards the healthy lifestyle.
And
That's your right, birthright.
if I may add, question absolutely everything, even everything we said here. Don't believe a word we said. Do your homework, take responsibility, and look for yourself. Confirm if what we said it makes sense to you. If it is true for you, apply it. If it doesn't, just discard it.
Absorb what's useful. That's what Bruce Lee always said. Folks, did I tell you or did I tell you? This is what Autodidacts roll like. So, folks, look, it's been a real joy to be on here with Alberto and Annette. And I'm going to let this jam because Annette likes to dance, and I'm going to get my groove on right here. Until next time, stay alert, stay alive.
I'm moving with the truth. Feeling nature's groove. We got the answers. All we need to do. Listen to the earth, they got us through. Let's see the shame. Watch the world spin. From the smallest sprout to harmony begin. In the cycle of life, where the magic's alive. Tune it to the beat, feel the vibe and thrive. Go to the baby, true.